Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/entitled Parent Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Karen wigs out after kid discovers she sold his comics. After that, you want me to write a fiction? Fine, but I'm making it a good one. And after that, I tried to save her $71, but Karen wanted a $100 Visa gift card. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen has to watch the new Space Jam. Oh, you've taken this too far, Reddit boy. Haven't you heard the reviews? So please smash that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Karen wigs out after kid discovers she sold his comics. This happened back in the 90s when I had my second comic store. One afternoon, I was in my store going through inventory when a woman walked in. This was unusual back then because, well, it was. I saw that she did have the precursor to what would become known as the Karen cut, was wearing large rimmed glasses and a skirt that was the style back then. I figured she might be looking for a gift for her son, so I asked her if I could help. She asked me if I bought boxes of comics. I told her usually not unless there was something I could use, but I would take a look. So we go to her car and we bring in a couple of long boxes. These hold about 300 unbagged/boarded books or 250 boarded, and when I went through them, they were all bagged and seemed to be in good shape. They were the particular books at that time: X-Men, Hulk, Ghost Rider. I thought I could sell them and offered her $100 for the lot, and she accepted. She left, and I put the boxes on a table to price them out and sort them out. After about 20 minutes, a kid, who was about 12, walks in and looks at the books on the wall and notices the boxes. He asked if they were for sale, and I said yes, but they weren't priced out yet, so if there was something he wanted, I'd give him the price then, and he started looking through them. After a few seconds, he had a strange look on his face, and I asked him if something was wrong. I'll never forget what he said. "These are my books." I said, "What?" and he repeated it. I asked him if he could verify it, and he said that he had a code written on every board and he could recite them. I then pulled out 5 books at random, and he nailed every code. I asked him to describe his mother, and he described the woman that sold me the books. I told him not to worry, he'll get them back. I asked for his phone number, and I called it, placed it on speaker, and I waited. After a few rings, she answered, and I responded, "Mrs. Karen, your son is here and informed me that the books you sold me did not belong to you. Will you please come down and give me back the $100, and he can have his books back, as I do not buy stolen merchandise?" Her response, "My son is in your store?" She screams at him to get out of there now and to never set foot in here again. She shrieks that if he ever comes back in, she will have me arrested. The kid was in tears. All he muttered was, "You stole my books." She continues her rant. "I don't want that crap in my house. Get out, now." And then she slams the phone down. I let the kid sit down while I processed what just happened. While this was going on, another kid and his mother saw him and said hello and saw that he was crying. They knew him, and the new kid's mother asked me what happened, and the kid told her. She was, to say the least, disgusted and said she'll take him home and have a few words with his mother. Before he left, I asked him what he wanted to do. He said, "Whatever it takes." I asked, "Even call the police?" He said yes. I said, "I'm going to try one more thing before that." About 7:30 that night, I called the number, this was before caller ID, and got the father and explained what happened that afternoon. Only thing he said was, "She did what?" I repeated, and again he said the same. Then Karen realized who he was talking to and started screaming. The father just told her to shut up. Then he thanked me and said he would handle it and asked what time I closed. About 15 minutes later, I see the kid and his father, with Karen being dragged along, and she is shrieking so loud, dogs 3 counties away had bleeding ears. He drags her in and tells her to give me back the $100. She yells that she doesn't want that crap in her house and she won't do it. She's going to have me arrested for selling him this crap, and how could they let me be open in this town? She hated Superman and baseball cards. She breaks away from the father and attempts to kick out my showcase, and it was only because he managed to grab her collar and yank her back that they weren't smashed. She then tried to shove my computer off the counter, but I managed to stop her. The The father gave me back what I was paid plus a little extra for all this BS and apologized. Karen said she'll just set them on fire. Father said no. He's bringing them to his business and would keep them safe from her. He also said he would come in with the kid in the future. Now I found out after the fact, about 10 years later, secondhand, so I can't verify. Karen basically destroyed the relationship and never apologized. After the kid graduated, he joined the army, got married, and had a kid. He doesn't see her often, but allows contact when the father is there. Over comic books. I have seen worse. Now there are those who are probably asking, why didn't I ask her if they were hers? I didn't think of it. But since then, when a woman says she has comics to sell, I ask, are they yours? Out of all of the times, at least 50 in the last 10 years, only one said they were hers. I then ask, do you have the owner's permission? Never a yes. I tell them, I don't accept stolen property. One of these was quite entertaining. At a flea market I used to do, a woman walked to my booth and asked if I could buy comics. I asked her, are they yours? She said no. I then asked if she had permission, and again, no. I asked, why do you want to sell them? Her reason? He's too old to be reading comics. He was 37. I said, ma'am, I'm 49 at the time, and I read comics. A guy looking through my books said, ma'am, I'm 72 and I read comics. She huffed that we were immature idiots. The guy said, at least I'm not stealing my kids' books. Have a nice day. This is not the worst incident I have had, but it is in the top 20. You want me to write a fiction? Fine, but I'm making it a good one. I'm a machinery operator in an industrial setting. This means we have a lot of trade professionals on site 24/7 to minimize the impact of any breakdowns. On this particular occasion, I had a heated press shut down on me because it was reporting a temperature of around 3,600 degrees Celsius. The required temperature range is about 275. Since I have multiple stations on this machine and it's designed with failures in mind, I'm able to just run with the one station disabled with negligible loss in production. So I put in a mid-priority work order and pretty much forgot about it. Now, I'm not a ticketed professional myself, but since this is half the temperature of the surface of the sun and I didn't appear to be heard, I put the problem down as a malfunctioning sensor. A few hours later in the shift, an electrician stopped by to get more details. I'm a bit of a curious person, so in the interim I had looked up the melting point of steel, which is what the actual contact surface of my press is. Depending on specifics, it's around 1500. The boiling point is around 2900. I expected this information to be for personal amusement only. I was wrong. I described the problem to the electrician and showed him my reading, alongside all the other stations which were normal. Obviously, I informed him that a reading in the 3000s was not possible, but he disagreed and told me, maybe that's the temperature. Fair enough. I had had to look it up myself, so I'm not going to fault him for not immediately realizing this reading was nonsensical. I told him that steel boils at less than the reading I gave him, but he wasn't having it, and insisted that I put a parallel work order in for the engineers. Officially, this just means the diagnosis was not immediately clear to the operator and creates a second tag with an alternate explanation, so that when one tradesman closes the tag, the alternates are closed automatically. Unofficially, it would act as a black mark on my records, essentially telling the entire maintenance crew that I don't know my machines and don't know what I'm doing, and would result in more people questioning my judgments in the future. I don't have a lot of those, so I was already pretty annoyed that he was trying to push me around over this. But I can see where, from his point of view, it would seem reasonable to assume that a random person just happening to know the state change temperature for metals is hard to believe, so I was still resolved to remain reasonable. I went to the supervisor instead and told him the situation, expecting him to just tell the electrician I'm in the right and to go have a look at the sensor during our next breakdown or scheduled halt. Instead, he just told me to come up with an alternate perspective diagnosis and put in the parallel work order. Notably, he didn't actually specify engineer as the electrician had. I should note here, too, that the supervisor in question is an experienced welder, meaning he should know full well how ludicrous the demand was. Well, cue malicious compliance. Since this wasn't an urgent issue at any rate, I decided to take my time with a new work order. I reached out to managers to get the procedures for a work order that requires out-of-house services and government agencies. Waiting for those details meant I would be taking this home and finishing it up on my own time, but at this point, I was invested. I actually went through drafts on this thing, but the finished product was a masterpiece of BS. Since 3600 degrees would have sublimated my entire machine, I worked under the assumption that my lungs had been coated with various aerosolized metals that were blocking whatever little function my lungs could possibly retain after being exposed to apocalyptic temperatures. I explained that all the events since encountering the reading must therefore be hallucinations brought on by my failing brain as I succumbed to my certain end. I made a point to detail how grateful I was that the delusion had apparently isolated me from the mind-melting agony my body must be in. I summarized my last will and testament in the vague hope that in my dying utterances it might actually be communicated to somebody still alive in reality. I recommended immediate contact with Environmental Canada for disaster cleanup. I requested a specific funeral home, but specified that I did not wish to be cremated. I also made a point to mention by name the two people who had graciously informed me that my equipment could be expected to function normally in the temperature range of a sunspot. These work orders are the size of a postcard, and the actual request part is typically 4 to 15 words. I handed this sucker in with 3 sheets of foolscap stapled to it. If it had actually been processed, it would have created a mountain of paperwork, since I can't imagine Environment Canada reacting well to receiving a major disaster notification followed by, actually, sorry, never mind, one of our employees is being a butt. Predictably, I was hauled in to speak with management before noon that day to explain myself. I did receive a write-up, which I refused to sign and demanded a union rep on hand since I had had no way to follow my orders without being ridiculous. They declined to bring one in, so that should be the end of that. The faulty sensor had been replaced by the time I got back to my machine. I tried to save her $71, but Karen wanted a $100 Visa gift card. I was a department manager at an arts and crafts store a few years ago. A warm, pre-lockdown Saturday morning in May of 2018. I get called up by cashier who is known to be very soft-spoken. All the cashiers are busy. Holding up register 3 is a middle-aged lady with 2 carts chock full of crafts and baking stuff. The issue was the customer's 10% off coupon was expired by over a week and it was not working. Her total was around $557. The lady was already irate, berating the cashier, an 18-year-old, saying she can't believe coupons expired so soon after getting them in the paper, huffing about how she was a rewards member who shops here often since she was a Girl Scouts leader, and how I should contact the newspaper she got the coupons from and make them either deliver it to her sooner or let corporate know the coupons should last for up to a month. I de-escalated the situation and apologized while explaining that I couldn't make corporate stop running different sales every week, but I would certainly manually take off the 10% myself. As I was doing this, I noticed she would save money with the paid membership we had recently implemented. With this membership, the customer would get a one-time 20% off their current order and 5% off every purchase thereafter. Yes, it was a ripoff, considering it offered almost exactly the same exact rewards that the free program offered. But seeing this lady had a huge order, I pointed out that not only would she get the membership essentially free, but it would save her $71, $20 more than she would have saved with her expired coupon. The lady jumps down my throat. First, the cashier tries to tell me about this dumb membership, and now you? Do I look stupid? I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want it. I'm not a moron. I know there's a catch. Get me another manager. You're not going to trick me into paying for something more? Do I look stupid? You're insulting my intelligence. I'm tired of seeing your face. Get someone else up here now. By then, I had already taken the 10% off, called another manager, even apologized, despite fuming, and she was still ranting. My fellow manager on duty came up. I stayed because I wanted the sweet glory of seeing this lady's face when she was told the exact same thing I had just told her. This sent the lady into another frenzy. We got the district manager on the line, who had literally left minutes before the interaction started, from a meeting where he commended me on being the best salesperson of this membership in the district, And he had to explain to her the same policy, that every employee was required by the company to offer this membership, and we were not trying to rip her off, but we apologized for the inconvenience. She still did not leave. Eventually, I asked her what she wanted, what it is that she wanted out of this interaction that by now had caused a whole scene and had taken up over half an hour. She demanded a $100 gift card, not to the store, but a $100 Visa gift card for wasting her time. How about no? We couldn't do that, of course. She ended up leaving with the promise that the district manager and general manager of the store would call her later. I ended up taking a 40-minute paid break in my car to release steam after that. When the district manager called her the week later to offer her a $10 certificate to the store, she told him to hold on a second, and we could all hear her in another store throwing the same kind of fit. Ridiculous. You paid for them, so you can pay for us. Took the day off from work yesterday because my nephew's school was closed for the day and I wanted to spend time with him. My brother and nephew live with me. My nephew is a small kid and he calls both my wife and I Mom while calling my brother Dad. This has led to him getting teased a bit, especially by entitled Mom's son, Jared. Jared is easily 30 pounds heavier than my nephew and a solid 6 inches taller, so my nephew is terrified of the kid. As a result, we don't invite that kid to parties or playdays. Every other kid on the block is invited, but I refuse to force my nephew to interact with someone he's so afraid of. When the ice cream truck pulls up to our neighborhood, it stops at the very beginning of the V shape on our map. Kids, parents, and anyone else who wants an ice cream go and meet the truck there, so it doesn't have to stop at each of the 6 houses individually. Yesterday, my nephew was playing in the yard with his friend Kevin, while I and Kevin's dad Joe were trying to keep up with them while enjoying a pitcher of slow gin fizz. All in all, a beautiful day in Middle America. And now the story begins. We hear the unmistakable sound of the ice cream man pulling up to the RR, heading towards our neighborhood. So both the kids, Joe, his wife, my brother, and I all head up to the intersection to grab some soft serve. We get to the truck, and I let Joe know that this one is on me. He brought the drinks. So we all get our ice cream, I pay, and then we start to walk away. Before we get more than 20 feet from the truck, entitled Mom has placed an order for her and Jared and proclaimed in her best outside voice that Mary, not my real name, will be paying for these. I take a few steps back. Excuse me? I never offered to pay for you. Entitled Mom. You said this one was on you. Me. I was talking to Joe, not you. Entitled Mom. That's not fair. Jared was so excited for ice cream, and now you're saying he can't have any? Me. Ma'am, he's free to have all the ice cream you're willing to pay for. I'm not buying my son's bully ice cream. How dare you? Me to the ice cream guy. Sorry for the mix-up, but she's not on my tab. I want to be clear about that. Come on, Jared. We're going home with no ice cream because Mary hates you. I switched to martinis when I got home because forget that. Why did she even come to the truck if she doesn't have any money on her? I'm starting to understand why her son is such a crappy kid. It's not his fault. He's being trained to be that way. Not my client, not my problem. I'm a social worker who has been working with the homeless population for well over 2.5 years. For the most part, I interact with people who show me high levels of respect. The street goes both ways. About twice a month, I interact with someone who tries to use anger, fear, and manipulation to get their needs met. Their harsh tactics used to work with me, and I would drop everything I was doing to attend to their rage-filled requests. We just hired this guy who does not do his job. He sits around on his phone and distracts everyone his whole shift. The first week or so, he shadowed the housing help desk, which is just a fancy word of saying open office hours for anyone in the shelter. The help desk is a beast. You never know what you're going to walk into. Everyone dreads doing the desk. So the other day I had a client who was needing EMS. I asked him to help me and he said, "Not my client, not my problem." Then started mindlessly scrolling through Facebook. At first, people respected him because of his credentials. Now everyone in the department sees right through him now. My boss is starting to throw responsibility at him, which usually responds with, "I'm not ready." and my boss responds with something passive-aggressively empowering. I believe in you. You have XYZ experience. So you may be wondering where these two things intersect. Today, I was looking for someone on my caseload. I walked by the housing help desk to see if he was hanging around in line. This client stops me and starts taunting me. I see you helping other people, and you won't even look at me. You treat me like I'm a bum, not a homeless person. Forget you. You aren't doing anything right now. You're just walking around. I need your help. Come on. I respond with strong boundaries and refer him to my coworker. I don't want to break the process. You're in line for the housing help desk. He will help you when it's your turn. After all, it wouldn't be fair to skip the other guy in line. He will meet with you soon. Point at coworker through the glass. He shakes his head and gives me the "no, don't do this to me" look. Cue epic power struggle between the client and I. I keep referring him to the other worker. By this time, the other guy in line has had enough of his yelling and screaming and leaves. About 5 minutes pass and I'm not budging. It's just escalating this client even further. The client my coworker is meeting with leaves and the seat for the next client opens. I look through the glass and my coworker is frantically looking up and down, pretending to be busy, going through the file cabinet that nobody uses, pushing buttons on the copier like he's faxing something, opening stacks of paper and entering it into the paper tray. The client is getting so upset. Forget you, dude. Help me. Help me now. What is wrong with you? What's that guy doing? Have him help me. This shouldn't take this long. I peep my head through the door and ask my coworker if he's ready. He stalls and stalls, expecting me to bend. I tell the client, I'm not bending over the rules for you. You have to meet with the case manager at the desk. I have 30 other clients I meet with while I'm not running the desk. I open the door. Hey, coworker X. It seems like this guy really wants to meet with you. I've got to email over something to our boss. Can you help him? I look at him. Not my client, not my problem. Less than 4 hours later, he's already calling places to follow up on his application. Am I the jerk for canceling movie night with my boyfriend after what he did? I'm a movie lover. I love watching movies and TV shows like Star Trek, The Greatest Showman, Star Wars, and I have tons of favorite actors like Jake Gyllenhaal and Robert De Niro and Keanu Reeves. I even have rituals for when I watch movies, especially new ones. My boyfriend, Andy, and I have movie night every Thursday. Together for 9 months, by the way. We don't live together. He has a habit of Googling spoilers whenever we're watching a movie for the first time. It may not be a big deal, but I hate it. I hate when he does that. It ruins the mood, the excitement of the movie, and so far he's ruined over 14, what would have been great watching experiences. He did it again after I had a talk with him about it. He says he just can't help it, but I said I can't let him ruin the one thing I'm so madly interested in. I can't even enjoy our Thursday movie night anymore because of it. He said I was right and promised he won't do it again. Heck, he even promised that he won't keep his phone with him and will leave it elsewhere. This past Thursday, he came over to my place so we could watch a new movie together. I prepared popcorn and drinks, and we sat on the sofa and started watching. It was a great movie choice. I was in the mood and excited to see how events would turn out. Andy's phone was in the kitchen, so I didn't have to worry when he started moving in the sofa, looking uncomfortable. I kept staring at the screen, and in a few minutes I heard tick, 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 keyboard sound. I turned my face and saw Andy had my phone in his hand and was seemingly looking up spoilers for the movie. I was like, you know, what the heck did you do that for? You also took my phone. I got mad, and he just kept smiling at me with his sharp teeth. He promised he wouldn't spoil it for me, and I can trust him this time to not say anything. I took my phone back, hoping I'd still find out what happens in the movie on my own. He kept harassing me, asking if I wanted him to tell me what was going to happen at the end. I said no. Minutes later, he spoke up and said, Hey babe, I just wanted to tell you that XYZ will happen at the end. I blew up. I yelled, calling him unbearable and selfish to have ruined yet another great movie watching experience. He said he wanted to ease my mind about the ending after seeing me so worked up like that, but I said I was done and canceled our Thursday movie night and will have a girls' night in with my girls instead. He got offended, saying that I overreacted over a movie and that he was hurt after I canceled our special night of the week together. We usually end up having a good time afterwards, so I can see why this was such a big deal for him. He left and then texted me later saying I ruined the night and was hard on him since this is a habit of his that's hard to get rid of. But he's trying and I'm not giving him a chance. He wants me to reconsider. Am I the jerk for sticking with my wedding color scheme even though my mother-in-law is upset? For my upcoming wedding, I want an earthy theme with muted colors. In our social circle, it is pretty standard for the family to match the wedding colors so the pictures look nice. My parents are spending a good deal of money, so it is important to me that things go as smoothly as possible. When I told mother-in-law, she made a face but didn't say much. Then we started talking about what the family would wear, and mother-in-law realized that I wanted everyone to look cohesive and got upset. She accused me of not caring about her self-esteem and said my colors were ugly. Mother-in-law likes bold colors, but she had a wedding a couple of years ago and got to do whatever she wanted. I feel this is my day. Shopping for my mother of the groom dress was a nightmare. It was months of back and forth, crying, me vetoing dresses that would stand out like a sore thumb in pictures, her calling me vain and heartless. It was a mess. Finally, I took her and my no-nonsense mom and we got her a dress. I thought it was settled, but I got a furious voicemail from mother-in-law's husband saying she put the dress on and immediately began crying, and he will not let her wear it at this point because of what it is doing to her self-esteem. He called me a fake person who doesn't know what love is, a controlling psycho, and then he lost it on me for making his wife cry. My fiance finally took the phone and ripped him a new one. His daughter texted me the next day and said she doesn't like mother-in-law that much, but she thinks I'm being a jerk because my colors were chosen to suit my huge family and bridal party, who are all white. And mother-in-law is the only non-white one, who's Middle Eastern, so the colors don't suit her well. I called mother-in-law and asked if that was it, and she wouldn't even answer and said I don't care about her. My fiance says to make her wear it out of spite, but at this point, I think they might not be going. She hasn't RSVP'd, and she is the type to dig her heels in and not go. I'm not even sure she has the dress because my mom says mother-in-law told her her husband cut it, and mother-in-law thought that was so cute and romantic. I don't know if I'm being too harsh by not budging. This is important to me, and I'm sick of her always being a spoiled brat and getting her way. But at the same time, the colors are making her feel really insecure, and she is super vain. Edit. The one thing I'm not willing to do is trick her and Photoshop the pictures. I am genuinely afraid for her and what that could do to her mental health. We could never see her again, which is maybe okay, but I don't want her to have a breakdown and have months of bad mental health. Edit. I relented a little and said she could wear what she wanted and not be in pictures. I'm pretty sure she blocked me though, and she hasn't answered in 6 hours, though she has been posting on Instagram, so she probably isn't coming. I am most definitely not an Uber driver. As the title says, I am not an Uber or a Lyft driver. There is no indication anywhere on my vehicle that I would be. I don't really put stickers on my truck anyway, so it's not like there's any confusion on this. I drive a 2014 Silverado, and I take care of it and keep the inside looking nice. And from some of the horror stories I've heard, I don't want to let strangers in my truck. Nothing against Uber or Lyft drivers, just not doing it in a vehicle I worked very hard to be able to buy. Anywho, yesterday I drove my wife to Ulta so she could shop for beauty products. I really had no interest in going in, so I parked and played on my phone for a bit. After about 15 minutes, the passenger door opens and some stranger gets in. This lady looked like she walked straight out of a meme about Karens and hopped into my truck. Random lady. No wonder I was waiting so long. You're over here messing around. Me. I think you're in the wrong vehicle. I don't know you. Why are you in my truck? Random lady. I need to go to this address. It's down by the amphitheater. Me. I'm not a cab. You're the Uber driver I just called for. You have the sticker. I look around. I totally have friends that would put something on my truck as a joke, but I wasn't seeing it. Ma'am, you must be seeing things. There is no sticker on my truck. I'm not an Uber driver. Random lady pulls out her phone and with a tone of such superiority that I immediately wanted to just push her out of the door says, My app says that the driver will be in a blue Ford Focus, and that's you. I laughed out loud. What is so funny? Me. I'll tell you what. I'll give you a free ride to the eye doctor to get you some glasses. You said your driver was in a blue Ford Focus, a small car, and you confused it with a dark gray Chevy Silverado pickup truck? And no possible trick of the light could those two ever get mixed up. You obviously need glasses, Mrs. Magoo. I'm sure everyone is about to be shocked by her next line. I've read enough Reddit stories and even written one or two. I should have seen this coming. How dare you? Me. I'm not your Uber driver. I don't drive for Uber. There is no sticker. You got into the completely wrong vehicle. The only thing that I can see as a reason is that either your eyesight is terrible or you're starting to come down with Alzheimer's or dementia, which would be tragic, but I don't think this is the case. I was watching the Karen rage build up in her face. I was expecting the explosion, but she switched tactics on me. I thought she was gonna zig, but she zagged. Random lady. Well, I still need a ride, and you aren't doing anything, so why don't you just take me there? I can give you $5. She said this like she was trying to bribe a kid with a piece of candy. I might have been willing to give her a ride. I'm a nice guy to most people, and generally am willing to help people out. However, her condescending tone got under my skin, and I'm not going to reward that kind of behavior. Me. No, and you need to get out. My wife is here. She had just shown up. This lady had the audacity to roll down the window and tell my wife, "You can wait. I need a ride." It was that moment too that I just happened to see a blue Ford Focus driving really slow in front of the stores and the driver looking around, obviously her ride. I started speaking slowly while keeping an eye on the driver. Ma'am, listen. Pause for dramatic effect. I am not driving you anywhere. I'm taking my wife home and she definitely doesn't have to wait for you. You need to get out of my truck before I call the police. If you're waiting for your ride, you need to settle that with Uber. By the way, the Uber driver you were waiting for is leaving the parking lot right now. I pointed to the blue car that was moving to the lot's exit back onto the road. She flung my door open and tried to go chasing after him. It was pretty comical, really. We drove past her on the way out. She didn't look happy. Click this button to join as a channel member and we'll give you a shout out in our next video. Or come watch this video next, the one that just popped up on the screen. It's one of the funniest videos we've ever made.